Start hammering the
Little
coffee.
afternoon
Is
tea.
that a green tea?
Green tea.
That's green tea.
Yep, I'm a green tea fan.
Yeah. No, green tea is good.
Yeah.
Is that the only kind of tea you would drink, or do you like other teas too?
I like chai.
Oh yes,
Chai is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know about other teas. I don't drink many other teas.
Yeah, I grew up where my mom had a lot of herbal teas. Like, we just had
tea around.
Chamomile tea and peppermint tea.
Chamomile.
We call it chamomile, but it's
Chamomile?
probably chamomile.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's sort of like the whole apricots and apricots.
Tomato.
What is it? Why is this
Nobody
language so
knows.
hard? My dad had this guy that worked for him, and he was Russian, and he's trying to he was trying to understand why people thought he was swearing when he said, "We just went to the beach." He's like, why is this a bad word? Well, because the way you're saying it.
Yeah. I know.
When you say you went there, then that's different. But if all you're talking about is the beach, people are not getting it.
Teaching my daughter to read, I'm like, this is kind of a hard language to teach or learn.
Yeah.
It's like,
It always does that, except when it does this, this, and that, the other.
I'm like, how do I explain
English
that
is
to a
so
5?
difficult. Yeah, and writing it, that's the other problem.
Mhm.
Like, it's bad enough to try to pronounce English, then you have to try to
Write it correctly.
Write it, grammar,
so true.
spelling.
Mhm.
But thankfully, folks, we have ChatGPT. Just
To
kidding.
the rescue.
Oh my goodness.
And this episode is sponsored by
Yeah.
ChatGPT.
Not at all.
It's actually not.
It's not at
No.
all. Yeah. This podcast stems from my thoughts on really some phone calls the last couple of days, actually. What separates a profitable project from a failing one? And some of the observations that I had in just analyzing this is the value that we provide as a contractor is a job that is completed.
Mhm.
So the only value you provide when the job is done, that's what people pay for. They want something completed.
Yeah.
The journey of getting from the start to the finish line is where you either make money or lose money or somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I'm curious. Do you feel like in construction, do you feel like you're failing along the way? Or do you feel like it's failing
Hard fail at the end.
when you're not profitable? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, do you think you can feel yourself failing during it? Or is it just when you're looking at the numbers and you're like, oh, where'd the profit go?
I think you definitely feel it along the way of thinking, man, this job has not been efficient. We've had this mistake or this didn't go right. And I think if we break this down, how long it takes you to do a job is a huge aspect of whether or not you're getting to the destination and making money, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, if a week is how long something should take to do it, and you get it done in 3 days,
Right.
someone's paying for a week of value, go collect the other 4 days.
Right.
Or, if you're 2 days, depending on how many days you're working. Yeah. I guess that would be correct. How many days are in a week?
Yeah, we don't know.
Yes, 173 hours in a week. No, I'm just kidding. So I think the speed in which you're able to move a job along is a huge factor. And certainly you're going to feel that along the way. I think that's a great...
Do you feel stalled in the middle?
Yeah,
Like,
right.
Yeah.
I think there's observations.
Doesn't feel successful when you're like blocked by things.
And no doubt the frustration is piling up there that we should have been done last week. Why are we fighting this? And then I think the efficiency aspect of how many trips do we make to the store in order to get this job done? We've talked about this before.
Yeah. Some people don't like it.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Well, just from some comments.
Hit a nerve.
I love it. It's
Now
great.
get out of that store and
You're like,
get to
"That's
work.
Terrible advice. It's okay.
Well, I think the trips to the store piece, it can be fun to go to the store. And I'm certainly not trying to rail people that go to the store. I mean, I spend so much time in stores that you get to memorize the layout of them.
Yeah.
But it's just, do you need to make the trips, right?
Yeah. Make sure it's.
And even more so than that, are the materials that you need, are they lined up in order to get the job done, right? If you're going to be waiting for a month to get something, did you call a month ahead when you need it, or are you waiting until you need it that day and then you're waiting a month? So
Proactive.
the efficiency, right? Yeah. And then I think also the element of rework. Did you get it done right the first time, or do you need to come back later and fix things? And that shows up in some weird ways. Example, if you're installing or remodeling a bathroom and need to install a medicine cabinet, a mirror, recessed mirror. Well, if you didn't know what size you're putting in, what selection was involved with that, and got to the point of needing to install that item, and now somebody's picking out a product, now you're going to have to go cut holes in a wall. There might be pipes in the way. There might be wires in the way.
For sure.
Don't ask me how I know this.
Couldn't. It sounds like you have some experience.
Oh, so much pain. But nonetheless, that
But had you
inefficiency,
known, basically.
had we known at the beginning and had we had planned for that, we would have been 3 times more efficient than later on.
Yeah.
And so I think this is what makes money. So, I mean, back to the point is the difference between a successful project and a failing one is really did we get to the finish line?
And
And
how
how did we
quickly?
get there? What did the journey look like?
Yeah.
And I think today we really want to kind of unpack some more about how to get to that destination.
Mhm.
First, it's important to recognize it, of like that was how money is made. If you're not making money, it's not necessarily because you're not charging enough, although there could be a piece of that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily that there's some other aspect of, there's a lot of other things going on in business.
Which you should interrogate all of them and make sure that they're in line.
But there are some projects where you can't charge enough money to make up for the inefficiency
Right.
and the journey to the destination that's just not the way it should be.
Yeah. Well, and I think a stat we mentioned on our last episode was, you'd mentioned the redo work costs 3 to 5 times more. Takes more time, costs more money.
Scary, isn't it?
It's terrifying.
Yeah.
So I think back to the point of like efficiency, making sure that you have everything set up, teed up to do the job done right, then that's where it's at.
The cost of interruption is something that we overlook sometimes. Starting and stopping is so expensive.
Yeah.
If anything that keeps you from doing one complete process at a time is something that is cutting into your profit. And that shows up in some weird ways. Sometimes it's because we can't grasp the scope of what we're doing. And we're just thinking, you know what? Today's bad enough. Like it's all we can do to show up and get things done. And we'll open the walls up. We'll see what's in there. We'll figure out what's going on if you're a remodeling contractor. If you're a plumber, it's like, well, I don't know exactly what's involved with doing that. We're going to figure it out as we go. Sometimes that's all you can do.
True.
But sometimes the process of just taking a step away from it and saying, I'm going to spend an hour and go through this mentally, step by step, and write out the details as the best I can, could save you days down the road of lining things up.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about earlier just some of assumptions too, like especially in remodel, talking about some assumptions that you were like, hey, if we're going into a remodel, this era of home or whatever it is, like I'm going to make some broad assumptions so that way you're prepared for a lot of those scenarios too. I think that I can't remember the specifics of what you were.
Yeah, rotten floors, floor joists, I mean, things like that.
Not
that
keeping the subfloor, things like that.
Yeah. Right. We're just assume we're going to take out all the subfloor and replace it. So we're ready to go with that. We're going to get into a little bit like who you're working for and how that's going to tie in with this as well, because there's something to do with that as well. Efficiency is where money is made.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
I've seen jobs where we've made so much money that it's felt wrong, but we provided value and people were happy. Yeah. And I've seen other jobs where it felt like we couldn't charge enough money and the client's, not happy. Yeah. And you just like, somehow or another, it's like, why did we not make money on that job? Like there's no reason for it.
I think there's a delineation too between efficiency and quality and fast and cheap. Right? Like we're not saying build fast and cheap stuff. We're saying build efficient and build quality.
Yeah,
right?
It's
Like
a good
there's
distinction.
a big difference between those two types of building practices, right?
Yeah. It's the fast as in if you're going to do one thing a certain way, apples to apples comparison of, this is the quality expectation. This is what we're delivering from a final product. It's not necessarily that we change the product in order to be fast. It's that we're efficient to the destination of the same exact product as if we took a long time or a short time.
Right.
It was how we got there.
Yes.
Right. So we're all going to this specific destination. We're going to this national park. That's not the debate, is what route did we take?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. It's a good distinction because I think it can be confusing because it'd be like, okay, the only way to get fast is by cheapening something. And that's not true.
That's not true. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there is a certain baseline, though, of, paint needs to dry.
Well, yeah.
You can't, you just, you can put a hairdryer on it, but it's just not efficient.
Right.
Yeah. I think one of the things we can kind of dive into here next as well is that as a part of being efficient, when I was talking about sort of this understanding a scope of our project, some trades, some scopes of work are just hard to understand. And this kind of ties in something we've talked about before in the podcast. Do you understand what you can deliver, the scope of work? Did you narrow that down enough to that you're in your niche, right? Are you in a spot where you can hit a home run every time?
Right. Well, I think what you're saying, like, can you actually be efficient if you say you do it all, or like you can do it all, right? Like I think that's what you're kind of getting to is like if you don't have a narrow enough scope to where you can be excellent at something and have all the tools for it, have everything you need to get a job well done, then do you think that a remodeler, though, I guess it's a question, do you think a remodeling company can be efficient that says they do it all?
I think you can with the right team of subcontractors. I think if you specialize in a certain aspect of the work, let's just take, for instance, an addition type of project. And this, we might lose a few people here because this is kind of somewhat specialized. But hang with us for for a little bit longer, folks.
Yeah.
But if you hire out a siding contractor, he's likely to have pump jack scaffolding. He's likely to have all of the tools to do a really great job with siding, right?
Yep.
He's done this many, many times before, so there's repetition. You would hope that he'd have a certain expertise because of repetition and applied knowledge to his trade,
Right.
hopefully some apprenticeship involved to even get to the point where he's at now.
Mhm.
He's studying, he's learning, he's improving, he's dialing in his efficiency. Whereas if I'm siding, I can do probably the same quality output at the end of the day, but we're going to lose a lot of efficiency.
Right.
I don't have pump jack scaffolding. I don't do that every
Yeah.
day. So I have to wind up, I have to wind down, I have to kind of re-engage
Climb up,
with
climb
things. Bouncing up and down ladders. So there's an aspect of that going on, right?
Yeah.
That I think is applied to almost any trade.
Yeah.
I can plumb a house, but am I going to be as efficient as somebody that does that
it
all
all
day
day.
long?
No.
Right?
Yeah.
No,
Probably
it's not possible. So I think that's what we're pointing out here is sometimes if it's too broad of a scope of work of like, nope, I do electrical, plumbing, painting, I do siding, I do concrete, I do it all. It's like, well, could one person do that? Not efficiently.
Well, and you can't be doing multiple things at the same time.
I've noticed
Too,
that.
right?
I've noticed
You can't do two things at once. You can't do two trades at one time. You know, like if you're a solo guy
Good.
trying to do everything.
Yeah.
Like that's where some of that inefficiency lies too. Whereas if you're hiring subcontractors, there can be simultaneous things going on at the same
That's
time.
good. Yeah. And money can be made on that.
Mhm.
Yeah. You're delivering a compressed timeline to somebody. I mean, that's valuable.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think some of the things that are the pain points that you guys are going to experience day to day is when people are in your way to get something done. And what I mean by that is you're not the whole holdup. When you own the project and you're able to say, it's my responsibility
Yeah.
from point A to point B that I need to get these items done. Well, you can say, well, I can manage that.
Right.
But then you have to interface with other people, vendors, designers,
Right.
architects, engineers, cities,
Clients.
municipalities. And then you got the clients, pain in the butt clients that are just going to be. And I think one of the aspects about clients is they are not there to get an efficient job like you are. You're there to make money. They're there to get their dream.
Yes.
And your goal is to be efficient and get delivering their dream. And I think that's the piece. They're coming at it from a completely different perspective than
That's
we
good.
are. And so
That's a good
I'm
thought.
coming there saying, I want to get this job done as fast as possible, as efficiently as possible. And while they might value having a job done on a timeline,
Mhm.
that's not the primary goal.
Yeah.
For
that's
most
true.
people, it's
Good
about
point.
saying, I want a good job. I want this, and
Mhm.
this might be for my forever home
Yeah.
that I really want to invest in. I want a
Absolutely.
good deal and I
Yep.
want to, I want to do my research. I want somebody to help me through this. So the perspectives we
Yeah,
have
that's
are
a good point.
different.
It's a great point.
So in that aspect of clients being the holdup, I think we want, probably just unpacking that one more,
Yeah.
diving more into the whole client piece of it.
Mhm.
I think permits are important. Working with designers and architects and engineers, they can be managed. But when it comes down to selections, I think that's where a lot of times inefficiency creeps up in a big way.
Okay, define selections. just
Okay,
so
so-
everyone's on the same page.
Yeah, it's a technical term that means things that your client selects.
Oh,
Highly precise term. Stick with us.
Thank you, ChatGPT.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, but and I'm glad you call it out because sometimes terms do get kind of wobbly, right?
Yeah.
But I'll give you guys a couple examples of this. If we're doing a bathroom remodel, we need an exhaust fan.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole range of exhaust fans. And we could choose something with a certain volume of air output, number of CFMs. We could choose something with a certain sound level, if it's very quiet or it's rather noisy.
Mhm.
We can choose something aesthetically. What does it look like? What features does it have? Does it have lights? Does it have a heater? Does it have, just a fan? You know
So
what I
many
mean?
decisions.
So many decisions. So you're essentially saying at the end of the day, we will select something that fills that bucket of exhaust fan.
Right.
And how we got there can take this winding journey and cause you of like, now I'm going to put my duct in, hook this all up. And then somebody says, hey, by the way, we're choosing 180 CFM output fan. Well, that doesn't go in a 4-inch pipe.
Right.
Now we need a 6-inch pipe. Well, if you ran the 4-inch pipe, you're ripping it out, putting a new one in.
Yeah.
See what I mean?
Yes.
So there's an example of
Rework.
rework
3 to 5
right?
times.
Yeah. So now we're drilling new holes. We're having to move stuff around. And it's just, we're just cursing this client basically, right?
Right.
So I think this aspect is where we make money, lose money. Even something like installing a hot water heater. Which one do you want it? So there's an educational aspect to this. We're trying to sell something to them. There's recommendations involved. Like this is what we think you should put in. But then you have the client says, I want to do my own research.
Or I don't
wanna
like how
look
that
at
looks
reviews.
or whatever. I mean, yeah.
Yes. So this is where money's made and
Yeah,
lost a lot of
that's good.
times, depending on your context. So I think a big piece of this is turning selections into sort of like checklists. Of
Mm.
these are the things that need to be done by certain timelines.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also like in the whole selections land, we've got color choices,
Yeah.
and we have some things that are more important than others.
Yeah.
Going back to the bathroom mirror example,
Mhm.
well, when we're framing the wall, we want to know
You
that.
need to know about that, which I don't think though, like as a homeowner or as a customer, like they have no idea
Nobody would ever be thinking about it
that
then.
you actually need to know that. Then they'd be like, well, I just need to get my mirrors last because they're going to get slapped on the wall after the paint, after the
Mhm.
dry, after, you know what I mean? Like everything's done. And so I think I like what you're saying about this being a prerequisite, but which it makes me think like, should you even start a project before you have all the selections defined? Now I know that's a big task, and that also means waiting on people for a very long time, probably.
Well, and who
Well,
wants as a builder to get out there and be just like holding hands or holding the client's hand and
Right.
trying to guide them the process of finding all that stuff? Like that's not what you guys want to do, right? You don't want to. You want to be building things, not helping somebody to choose which faucet they want to put in their bathroom. That's not what
you're
you
a
want
designer
to do.
if you do, you know,
Right.
want to
So
do it,
So if somebody does need that level of guidance, maybe they do need a designer. But I like what you're putting at though. If you don't have the prerequisites lined up, what are you doing there?
Yeah.
You're just starting things, stopping things.
setting yourself up for rework and failure. Really.
So I think it does come down to some guidelines and maybe some milestones and timelines, because there are certain selections like the mirror example. We're going to beat that one to death.
Yeah.
Where you're going to have a certain timeline.
Yeah.
When I frame, I need to know what this is going on here.
Yeah.
Where is the plumbing all going?
Yeah.
That would be nice to know when you're framing.
For sure.
What type of toilet are we putting in? So I think
chunking it out in terms
Yes.
of like steps of like I got to know this in these time frames. I think that's
what
really
type of
big
shower
call out.
glass are we putting on? Well, we need blocking in the wall to support the glass
Yep.
potentially. Then there's other things that are just completely meaningless, like shower, bathroom sink faucet,
Yeah.
where it's like, well, that's somewhat.
It's not
you
meaningless.
have some
That's the most important thing of the job.
Pish posh.
From a client standpoint, it could be the
meaningless in the
No, I know
timeline.
what you're saying.
Yeah. So I think there's an element of if you have a clear checklist there.
Mhm.
Now, what do you do with somebody that's just dragging their feet all the time?
I have no idea what you do. You keep calling them. You annoy them.
Right. Just annoy the heck out of them.
Yeah.
Okay, I think this speaks to how we process information. I
Mhm.
think a weekly digest for the people that need to make decisions is important, because this is something we do all the time.
Mhm.
Every time I have a thought, or somebody has a thought on my team and says, "Hey, I have a question for Ben," and interrupts what I'm doing, that's an inefficiency, because I was doing something else. Somebody just busts in and says, "Hey, I got a question for you, boss."
Mhm.
That can happen, and sometimes needs to happen.
Yeah. It
However,
isn't all bad. But
right.
Yes.
But there are, if you're building, you're out there just cranking it out, and then you feel like, oh, I got to deal with that thing now. That's inefficient to try to stop what you're doing, make a phone call, come back to it, as opposed to being like, okay, every time I have a thought for that particular client or a note or something happens, I'm going to keep that in a digest or a list of things I need to discuss with them, or I'm waiting on this, I'm waiting on that. And then weekly, you're sending them, so maybe even the same list you sent them last week of saying, I'm still waiting on that.
Yep.
And then this is going to become a problem at this date.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I need this selection by,
It's good.
August, middle August.
Yep.
I need this. And so therefore they have a timeline. And you don't want to hit them with something like, hey, by the way, we need your granite selection by tomorrow at noon. And
Well,
they're like, that's not fair to them either. Yeah. You're like, and if you're late, that's going to delay the project.
Yeah.
It's more or less give them space.
For sure.
You should know this. You're the
Give
expert.
them
You've
time
done
to
this
do
before,
research,
not them. So creating some margin as well. But at the same time, helping them understand this will delay things. Yeah. But at the same time, remember what we were talking about earlier. They don't care about how much inconvenience you go through. You're there to serve them. Mm-hmm. They don't care about the timeline.
Right.
Somebody's working for me, and I say it gets delayed another week. Well, I mean, it's too bad it got delayed another week.
Yeah.
It's not costing me money though.
Yeah. True.
Whereas it does cost you money, and this goes back to: did you have what you needed lined up enough where you're not slowing down with this project? And when do you call it and pull off?
Yeah. So how does that work for when there's a middleman? Right, in the job? I'm just thinking, like, let's say I'm a trade contractor and I'm working for a GC, or I'm a contractor working for a designer, or there's a lot of different scenarios, I think, where there'd be a middleman. But how do you mitigate that if you are the subcontractor that is waiting on someone else who's waiting on someone else? Does that make sense? Like the game of telephone?
Mm-hmm.
How would you handle that?
The weekly digest now goes to the general contractor. Okay. That goes to the designer as well. And at some point, I think sometimes the role of a general contractor can be misunderstood somewhat. And I think when whoever's actually determining or managing, let's just put it, managing the selections and saying, these are the things we will be doing. And it's the one communicating with the client. That's your general contractor.
Yeah.
That's the person nailing down
details.
Yeah, the details and really kind of controlling the velocity and the flow and the schedule of the project. That's your general contractor. And if you don't have that role, if you're a trade and you're coming in there and saying, okay, tell me what to do, how to do it, I'll get it done kind of a thing. Well, you're kind of at their mercy somewhat, unless you have your checklist ahead of time of like, okay, what about this? What about that?
Yeah.
And I think it really, it feels like a frustration because in the moment you're asking, okay, what about that? And what about this? But it also comes back to us sometimes when we're building something. It does, as much as we want to point the fingers at the other person and being slow, but it's not as though we didn't know about it or shouldn't have known about it sooner either. And so sometimes it comes down to, did I even have a good checklist in the first place?
That's good.
Where I'm pointing out, I should be looking at that checklist myself and being saying, there's 40 things on this list that don't have checked off on this. Like this job is at risk. And so every single day that goes by at that point, we should be flagging that job as at risk.
Yeah.
And so I think it when we're building things, the last thing we want to think about. But if it's in a list and we'll just keep adding things to it, then I think we're keeping it in front of us.
Well, I think if you're the trade contractor in that scenario, or just the contractor who's performing the work, like that's going to just make you look like you just are on top of things. You're like, to your general contractor or to whoever it is, the client, like just the brand representation of that, I think is like, wow, this guy, gal, whatever, knows what they're doing. Like they're teed up, they know their checklist, they have it defined. I have expectations clearly defined as the customer, whoever they're working for. And so I think that that's the client side of things. And even, I say client, I mean general, depends on who you're working for. That's a like weird dynamic. But I think that that's an important piece of like, it's going to set you apart from any other contractor who's coming on the job. If you're like, hey, I need these things, or these are prerequisites even before the job starts, I think that's just going to set you apart.
I like it. We had a situation with one of our vendors where something just didn't go down exactly the way we wanted it to. And when we spoke to the issue, they had their checklist, right? This is the flow. We'd like to start here. It didn't catch them as a surprise of being like, what, you have a problem with us?
Yeah.
It was almost being like, things happen. We try to be perfect, but we're not. And here's what we'd like to start with. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
Because right away there's like, okay, this is not the first time. They know how to resolve this issue, and they did.
Yeah.
And I think that's in a problem situation, but that can also be in a situation of guiding somebody through something. People want to know that you've done something before and you've done it well. That's like, there's the confidence. And it's not by telling them. The last thing you can do, anytime somebody tells you, hey, by the way, I'm really good, you're like, I thought you were before you said that. Now I'm worried.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
Question confidence.
Yeah, exactly. Mitigating that.
Yes. I mean, most of the worst outcomes I've had are from people that are very confident. Because they're trying to sell it.
Yeah.
They're trying to tell me how good they are. And I'm like, just show it. Just
probably
prove
not.
it. Like, just probably do the work and then let me tell you how good you are.
Let me be the judge of that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think another thing that in those touch points as well, when you could probably add in that digest to keep everybody in the loop, are things that maybe that you're not waiting on, but also looping them into of conversations that might have happened. By the way, I just discussed this with the designer last week, and we're still, we're waiting on a response, or we're working through that.
Yeah.
I communicate with the vendor. They're pulling together a quote on this. It's also
just
kind
like
of informative as well, of just
Mm-hmm.
being like, and also lets them know you're paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had contacted our window supplier. They're putting together a quote.
It's a lot to keep track of. You got to log that stuff.
That's your value proposition as a general contractor, though.
Yeah.
Your value proposition is not doing the work. Your job is coordinating the work.
Right.
It's getting it done, completing the final project in an efficient way. And
Right.
that's how you make money.
Right.
No, it's not by markup. It's
Right.
by efficiency.
Yeah.
Well, it should
Good.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah. What else we got to cover?
I'm curious if do you just have any stories of seeing some of that, like prerequisites weren't defined, or
Oh my gosh.
maybe the ownership of who's supposed to do something isn't defined. Like, do you have any stories like that?
I do. Unfortunately, I think we just dive right into the negative ones. And I think
Those are the best ones.
Yeah,
That's all we want to hear. We don't
I
really.
know. Yeah, don't tell us how you went. Yeah. Some of the situations that are probably the most challenging is when you have shared ownership with a client. And this goes back to the sort of the motivations. I'm there to obviously want to deliver a great product, but I get paid for it. In their case, they want a deliverable. And so when there's this shared ownership that you have with your client, where they're saying, hey, Ben, I'll take care of supplying the tile. I'll get the cabinetry. and the light fixtures. And suddenly you're kind of, as soon as it comes down to, did you make that call? Did you get that lined up for me? Oh yeah, I forgot, or I got busy, or it's just, you're on their timeline.
Yeah.
Not yours.
Right.
And I think that's when things have kind of gone sideways, where we've had a couple of times when that's happened. I'll align, or I've got a friend and he'll take care of this.
Yeah. Watch out for friends.
Yeah. And he'll do all the plumbing work. He's great.
Yeah.
Terrific. Amazing. Best plumber ever.
Yeah.
And then you're trying to interface with a guy you've never worked with before. And there's can be blame shifting and stuff like that. So I think those are the most challenging situations. And I think the way we ended up kind of getting to the point of mitigating it was, let's sort through all that ahead of time.
Yeah,
and I want direct contact with the person we're working with. I want to meet the plumber. I'd like to, you know what I mean? It's just he becomes my subcontractor because you're putting the ownership of completing this project on me.
Yeah.
I'm your general contractor. I'm your remodeler. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
And if you're telling me you have somebody that I need to interface with, you have a vendor you want me to work with, you have a contractor you want me to work with, you have a selection you want me to work with, that becomes my piece of ownership.
Right.
And if you don't give that to me, I can't promise you an outcome because I don't have control over that outcome.
Yeah.
In which case, I probably don't want that job.
Right. Which I think, though, like the way you're even saying that is like just educating a customer. A customer thinks like they're doing you a favor, maybe with their like, hey, I have somebody who can, yeah. And so I think having that expectation up front, educating the customer on like, here's why. Like we've talked about value proposition a lot. Like, what is it that you bring to the table? And I think that's what you're saying right now, like almost verbatim script. Like I can't actually own the job and complete a job if I don't have ownership of that. And so I think educating your customer on that is a huge key to being efficient.
Now on the flip side of that, you better be good at it.
Well,
you better be ready for it, And I think we've talked about this a couple of times before, but it's a challenging thing. But it comes back to the scope. What can you deliver and do a great job with, and stick in your lane?
Right.
I shouldn't be owning a trade or a scope of work I've never done before, never been involved with, because I'm not going to be good at it.
Yeah.
If there's some sort of, if somebody wanted to build an industrial waste facility and they're like, you're our general contractor, that would be a bad thing to hire me for. I've never done that before.
Like, don't do that.
Right. I'd be learning all kinds of new things. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But I'm just there to learn. I'm not going to be delivering a final product.
Right.
I could be there to learn something. So I think similarly, if you've never built a kitchen before and someone's saying, you're our guy to build the kitchen, well, that better get called out.
Yeah.
Because you're probably not the person rerunning that job the first time, unless you have a client that's saying, you know what, I'm going to work with you, and I understand it's your first time.
Yeah.
And the reason why you're doing this job is because you're so cheap.
Yeah.
That I can afford to learn with you.
Yeah, that's fair.
We're gonna go through this together, or as opposed to don't pretend to be something you're not.
Yeah, that's good.
I think that does happen sometimes. But if you're in a position where you do have the experience. You don't want to be in a position where that experience is diluted by somebody that's never done something before and they're entitled to a piece of it, whether that's sourcing the paint, whether that's, lining up the materials. And also from a GC standpoint, if you guys manage trades, don't supply the sheetrock for your drywall contractor.
Right.
Don't supply the pipe for your plumber.
Yeah.
That's their ownership. That is their segment of ownership. So I think it's a nested level of ownership.
Right.
As a GC, you don't want your client sourcing the pipe. Like it ends up being a game of telephone.
Yeah, that's bad.
Did you order that? Oh, I thought you were going to do that. There's an old expression, if two people feed the horse dies. And the idea is, I thought you fed the horse. No, I thought you fed the horse didn't get fed because we both thought the other person was doing it.
Yeah.
And I think there's an aspect of that even we find that in the workplace here where somebody will tag me something and you in the same comment. And I'm like, well, Kinsey will take care of that. I mean, it's Ben's product. He can,
It's true.
You know what I mean?
It's true.
Instead of being like, Ben, I've got a question for you, or Kinsey, I've got a question for you.
Right. Yeah.
And so I think it's funny how that goes down. But immediately I think there's 4 people involved in that. And surely one of the other 3 will do something.
Yeah. Well, and then if we're both tagged in a comment, obviously this is not related to the podcast, but if we're both tagged in a comment, then I'm going to give my response and be like, Ben, what do you think? Because we need to wait on 2 people's approval instead of one, because they've been looped into that, no clear owner.
So there's human nature at work for you, right?
Right.
I mean, so it's, you have 5 people involved in something like that. It's like, who's the decision maker here? Who's the owner?
Yeah.
And that's where it costs you money. So I think theming this all, coming back to it is where you make money in construction is efficiency.
Yeah.
Can you get from the point, to the final product, the same product, equal quality, what the customer wanted, right?
Right.
How did you get there?
Yeah. And then the prerequisites, I think, is a huge piece of what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Have your prerequisites defined and have, like you pointed out earlier, just the checklists with timelines of here's from a selection standpoint. here's what we need to know by when, so that way we can complete a job in a timely fashion.
Turn your prerequisites into checklists, and you'll be in this position where A comes before B, and now we're just like, it's a streamlined flow, and if something's connected to something else, we know it ahead of time.
If you think about, like, if you're trying to get selections from a customer, the things they want to look at are not the things you probably need. Like, I want to look at the tile, and I want to look at the countertops, and I want to but it's not the things you need.
Colors picked out.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, no, get back to the store. I need you to go pick out your furnace.
Exactly. So I think that's a big back to the education piece of like, clients don't understand the order of operations of how something needs built, or when you need to know, or why you need to know what toilet it's going to be, or exhaust fan, like you mentioned, when you're doing, the HVAC work.
Yeah, and you're the educator. You're able to come alongside and say, this is a recommendation based off of. Be careful, though, in recommendations. Are you recommending based off of what you value?
That's good.
Or are you off of what the customer needs? Because what you want and what I need might become two completely different things.
Yeah, you are not your customer.
Right. And what I value should have no bearing whatsoever in a selection. I mean, like, when it comes down to toilets, let them tell you what they're looking for. Right. I'm looking for a bidet. Yeah. My mom hates bidets. We love ours. But my mom was like, I'm not having that thing squirting me. We had somebody come over to our house, accidentally kick the bidet out when they were sitting on it, trying to figure out what the heck was going on. It was getting squirted. And like,
it's a bad day. And you're laughing because you know exactly what's happening.
If you guys need some entertainment, go look at reviews on bidet toilets on Amazon. It's actually, I remember seeing this one when I was kind of shopping around. This lady was like, yeah, so I got it installed. And then
I was like TMI already. I don't know.
Got it installed. And she's like, the accuracy was surprising.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you for that.
And so she said, I got it put on, and then went to try it out. And squealed.
Wow. So they're gonna be like, this podcast was so great until the bidet.
Yeah, there was a one day that we just stopped listening to it. It just stopped working. There's other channels.
There's other people.
Yeah, they're just fail videos and things like that. Good. Well, I hope this has been helpful. A lot of these lessons have come from doing things the wrong way for me. I think what we're trying to do in efficiency is not like good or bad. It's this linear kind of like some step in between.
Progress.
And we should always be pushing ourselves to being more efficient than we were in the last job.
Be better.
And that's where money's made. And I think that's also where value's created, where people say, that was an amazing deal, even though I paid top dollar for it. And you're saying, we cleaned up on that job. Yeah. We did good. And we can feel proud of ourselves.
Absolutely.
And so it's challenging the mental model, though, of like, go in there and I get paid X dollars per hour. That's never how you should think about getting paid. It's like, I delivered value. I did it with excellence. I did it with the right timeline. I was efficient at doing it. That's value you created. And so take home the profit.
So good. I love it.
All right. Next time, guys.
Check us back next time. See you later.